Hello, and welcome to the Moms Love Coaching Podcast, where we talk about self-care from the inside out for moms. I'm your host, Carrie McFarland, along with Angie Turgeon-Ledoux. We are certified life coaches and moms, and in this podcast, we'll go beyond the take a spa day advice and talk about real and sustainable ways that you can feel better, be happier, and stay out of overwhelm and burnout. You spend your life taking care of everyone else. In this podcast, each week, it's all about you taking care of you with no guilt and no apologies. We're so happy that you've decided to spend this time with us, so go ahead and grab your favorite cup of coffee, find a comfortable place, and get ready to spend the next 30 minutes focusing on the most important person in your life, you. Welcome everybody to Moms Love Coaching, self-care from the inside out for moms. I am Carrie McFarland, back for another week with Angie Turgeon-Ledoux.
Hey everybody.
Today, or this week, well, let's say this whole month, we are talking about getting through hard things. So just did a live yesterday. Check it out on YouTube or my Facebook account. It's up there now, but we're just talking about getting through hard things. And so our topic today under that theme is struggles with relationships because, you know, it's a thing. Struggling with relationships. And so when I say relationship, I'm not just talking about spouse, partner. I'm talking about anything. Any relationship, any interaction that you have with any other human on this planet is a relationship. And so people struggle in different ways. So sometimes people struggle with, meeting new people or being tolerant of people in their space. Maybe they don't know them, but they're just, everybody's in their way, or they get frustrated easily. Or maybe sometimes people have struggles with the people that are closest to them and they do fine with strangers, so it just depends. So when I say relationship, I'm talking about any type of relationship. So think about where you struggle with any type of relationship. And I would say largest obstacle to any relationship is the fact that there's another person involved.
That's a good one.
I guess I should say too, relationship with yourself, we can put that in there as well. Because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it's really hard to have a good relationship with anybody else. A lot of the times when you're frustrated with something or you're annoyed with somebody or you're judging somebody or you're blaming somebody, really, those are the types of things that you're thinking about yourself and you're projecting it onto other people. I'm not going to say that's 100% true all the time because I don't think that that's realistic, but I would say the majority of the time, that's probably what's happening. So if you're finding yourself in that situation, flip it around. If you were in that situation, how would you be thinking about yourself? I have done that many times and realized, oh, I guess I'm really judging myself on that one. Now, that doesn't always help in the moment, but hindsight is always 20/20. So it does help overall.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
I have a question because I have, let's just say colleagues, right? I have people in my work life. I have to deal with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And I want so bad to like a person. But then I get into because I like pride myself in being able to get along with any kind of personality. But there are a few people lately I've noticed in the last couple of years or so that I'm willing to admit I don't like them. And then I'm like, but I want to like them. I want to be open to what they're saying. I want to be open to listening and really being able to empathize, because empathy is another thing. I try to be a very empathetic person and pride myself on being an empathetic person. But when you've decided you're not going to like somebody, it is like, oh my gosh, they're going to, you get into a conversation. Next thing you know, you're like tuning them out because you can't stand what they're saying. What do you got to say about that, Carrie?
Feeling a little challenged right now, but okay.
How does that work?
How does that work?
No.
All right. So I would say, number one, It sounds like you're judging yourself for not liking that person. So I would
Mhm.
just question why that is. If you don't like something, like think about it as food. If
Yes.
you don't like broccoli, do you
I
judge
love
yourself for
broccoli.
not liking broccoli?
Yeah.
Okay, pick a food you don't
Canned,
like, right?
canned lima beans or okra.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Okra.
So okra. Do you judge yourself for not liking okra? Do you say, I want to like okra. I just don't like it. And I feel terrible because I don't like it. I'm pretty sure you don't do that.
I
Yeah,
want to like it, but you're
you
right.
don't
I
like
don't.
it.
I don't say I'm a terrible person because I don't like okra.
Right.
You're right.
So so just notice that, everybody has their preference of person
Yeah.
because everybody's different. So some people are more affectionate. Some people are more black and white. Some people are very opinionated. Some people are very quiet. Some people are very loud. Everybody has their preference. And it's usually how they are.
Hmm.
And so if somebody isn't like that or similar to that or not enough like that, then you're off put by them. And so that turns into not liking them. Now, is that a problem? Do you have to like somebody to be able to be civil and be able to work with them? Because it's not the liking part, it's the actions that you take. So if you don't like somebody, that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you go up to them and say mean things or punch them in the face
Or totally
or
avoid them,
tell
which
them to,
would be my MO.
or
I would,
right.
I would avoid any interaction with them, or it would be very, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or I pretend to their face that I just find them to be the cat's meow. Yes. So then I'm
Yeah.
lying. Like it feels like
So then
such
you're
like
lying.
I'm showing up with a mask on,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you don't get to see my true self. A, because I think you think what I think doesn't matter. And because that's the way I'm judging
Yeah.
this. There's a couple people more recently that I'm like, I'm totally judging them. And I was sitting, I was in a meeting, and I was like, I'm enjoying being angry at this person. I should sit down and talk with them. I haven't had a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
totally enjoying being mad.
Well,
Right?
I think that, that was one of the things that we were going to talk about is that a relationship between two people really is in your head, not in your head like it's made up, but in your head as if it's how you think about the person. It doesn't really have necessarily a lot to do with what they're doing. It has to do with what you're thinking about what they're doing.
Right.
Because that same person has people around them and they're doing the same thing. And some people won't like it, and some people will think it's the greatest thing, and then some people won't even notice.
I see what you just did right there, Coach Carrie. I see it. Did y'all hear it? Did you hear it? She reframed it for me so that I can consider the fact that there are other people that experience a similar behavior, and yet they don't get angry. Why? Why can two people experience the same person in a similar fashion, and one would be just like enraptured with everything they say, and the other one would be like, well, the heck with you, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because of what?
It's the way you think about it.
Right.
And so whatever you're thinking about is now translating into whatever emotion you're having. So you were having anger. And so what were the thoughts that you were having that triggered anger?
This is gonna be so funny. She's not nice.
There you go. She's
I'm
not
mad
nice.
because she wasn't nice. And I'm like, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think ultimately that's what it comes down to, is that in that particular situation, the behavior that I experienced, well, I didn't experience, that I witnessed or heard about or whatever it was that it was unkind and it caused other people to be upset. And
Now
I
this,
don't like that.
yeah. And so now this is very interesting too. So if you think about what causes the thought, it's the circumstance. So in this case, the circumstance is this person. And so what was this person doing that caused you to have the thought, she's not nice?
Like you mean like get down to
Yeah.
specifically,
What did she say? What did she do?
this happens when a person doesn't take responsibility for their part in an interaction. And then you can see, or you believe, that there's a whole narrative they have constructed around this situation. And I mean, I guess it's the exact same thing that I'm doing, is they have that person has this whole narrative, and they made out another person to be the bad guy, and then they sort of went after them. By
But
that, I think
everything,
they said things about that
right.
person that weren't true.
So
And
I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to stop you and challenge
yeah,
you a little bit, because everything that
no,
you just
folks,
said is everything you
yeah.
just said is a thought.
Mm-hmm.
So so you're saying that, oh, she created a whole narrative in her head and she did this and she did that. So I'm curious about, what exactly did she do? What exactly did she say? Like, did she say something or did she do something? Let's start there.
It's everything that I heard third party. That's what I said. I've never
So
had a conversation with this person regarding this particular situation.
Okay, so the circumstance is, third person said to you, this person said this, this, and this about this person.
Yes.
That's your circumstance. And so your thought is, she's mean.
Yes.
And then you got angry about it. But you didn't, number one, hear her say it. You don't know technically if it actually happened.
No, what I do know is how she made how that other person felt in that interaction. So
you know what the other person said about how they felt.
Right. And then I know, I mean, it's not like I'm a stranger to this work, but I totally am hooked by these behaviors of that person, these words of that person impacted a person that I don't think was in a fair way. So, and rather than go to that person and say, I really need to have a conversation, I need to understand, which is how I really wish I would show up. But like I said, I'm enjoying being mad at this person. Now, is this person in my everyday life? No. Like, this is not a person that I work with daily. I feel like it's not serving me, because eventually I'm going to have some sort of interaction with this person in a way that's, more than across email.
It's also interesting too. So when you have a third party say, so-and-so did this and this and this and this and this, and then you're reacting to what they're saying.
Right.
You're also reacting to their interpretation of what happened.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know if the person people love to paraphrase based on what they think, right? So you might not even be reacting to exactly what happened in reality.
Right.
The other part of that is, people in general don't like to have gaps in their knowledge of something.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do to fill those gaps is we make something up based on the information that we have. What happens is, and we all do this, what happens is, we don't know the full story, but we imagine the story. So like when she comes to you and says she did this and she said this about this person, now you're imagining this scenario. You're imagining her
stirring it up.
Face. Yeah. You're imagining
her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a terrible human this person is. And in there with the person that I work more closely with.
So this is what I always tell my kids. And actually, I talk about it in work too, because it applies to work. I'm in human resources. And so I have employer relations issues that I deal with. And this happens all the time.
Yeah.
People don't have all of the information, so they make it up in their head and then they get mad about it.
As a mom, if I am making this story up about one of my kids' friends or something that happened with my kiddo, or a a family that my kid may interact with, then it could cause some serious problems between me and my child. So,
I mean, so if you think about it, so you make stuff up and you get mad about it. And then, when you're mad, you're angry, you're frustrated, you act in a certain way. And even if you're not acting directly to any person, it's going to affect the people around you, because they're going to experience that, and they're going to have, that will be that will be their circumstance. What your behavior is now becomes their circumstance.
that's really,
and then they have thoughts and feelings about that. And all of it is based on something that you made up in your head, maybe, or interpreted it a certain way.
At the very least, in this situation, anybody, like, there's just a few people that know that I can talk with about this situation. And at the very least, I'm showing up in a way that I don't want them to think that I am. Like, the people that I feel more safe with, I can show up by, not being, blaming that person and talking smack about them. And that's why I say, like, I'm enjoying being mad, because it's like I can, when that person comes up in conversation, I can be like, oh, and I'm showing up in a way that's not aligned with my values. And I think that's why it's bothering me. It does bother me. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Help me figure this out, Carrie, because how can there's going to be, like you said, maybe I'm just not going to like this person. And I don't know this person well enough to even decide whether or not I like them. I'm just basing it on some various interactions and then third-party information, right? So I end up showing up in a way that's more consistent with the behavior that I don't like in the other person, the behavior. And I'm air quoting this because, as I said, I don't have any pure evidence, personal evidence of that behavior as having happened. And I'm out of alignment. I think it is that I am not allowing myself just to be okay with not liking this person right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. What we think always comes back to us. So your initial thought was that she's mean.
Yeah.
And then you got angry, and now you're acting in a way that's basically being mean to her.
Yes. I wouldn't act that way if that person was in the room, because that's how
but behind her back and talking and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I am just recreating the behavior that I find so offensive. Like, this has been so offensive to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm high horsing.
Yeah.
Because by that I mean I'm taking the high road and thinking
I like that. I'm using that. That's a good verb. High horsing.
And I need to just come down off that horse. Get down on the ground level. Take my shoes off, stand in the grass. I was talking about grounding this week. And that's, like, literally grounding yourself to the earth.
Yes.
And there's like mats that you can purchase.
There's sheets you can purchase.
Sheets. Yes. I've heard about these sheets that you can purchase. Anyway, that's for another episode, y'all. But this ground myself in that, I think the layer that's deeper on this is what you touched on, is I'm judging myself for having this kind of reaction to this person's, to the stories of this person's behavior. And then various interactions I've had with that person as well that aren't related to that particular situation, but are different, where I'm just like exasperated. And then I have the whole story, and it's like, how can I, and it's not even, is it really like letting go? Is it letting go, or just sitting with it and saying, this is how I feel and it's okay, but I don't have to act in a way that's incongruent with what I say my values are?
I think it depends on the situation, in terms of letting it go or sitting with it. In this particular case, because it's third-party information that you're reacting to, which is basically somebody's interpretation of what happened, and it sounded like it was kind of a visceral reaction for you, that I don't like this person, they're mean. and then you get angry about it. So in that particular case, I feel like sitting with that and thinking about, why is it a problem that, let's just assume that what was said is true, that this person did say that, right? Let's just assume for the sake of this. What is it about that is a problem for you? Why, what, that elicited a very strong reaction. So why is that? And the second thing I would say about that is, you had that thought and then your feeling was anger. And anger, as you know, is a secondary emotion to something that's more vulnerable, like fear or sadness, rejection, betrayal, something like that.
Right.
And so what is it about what you heard? Because your circumstance actually is, this person said this to me, right? That third person said this to me. And then your thought was, that other person is mean. And then you were angry. And so I would explore what it was that created that anger for you, because in my experience, personal and coaching, there's usually something underneath there. And you might not be ready to see what that is. And so you might need to sit with that for a minute.
Right.
Because the truth is, you're not going to like everybody. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But if you're not going to like somebody, it is helpful if it's you not liking somebody because of what they actually said or did, not because of what you heard what they said or did.
Yeah. I mean, I have some ideas about why I am responding this way, in terms of what it means about me and my role and what I'm supposed to be able to manage and take care of. And I think it's probably related to that, because we know that shame is a huge, like we all have shame, right? And that I think that when we're hanging on to something, because I do seem to be hanging on to this, and like I said, enjoying it, like it's a whoopee, like I'm hanging on to it, my little blankie, my little security blanket.
Yeah.
And then it keeps me safe from actually thinking that, there could be some truth in what was said. And then what am I going to do about that information? And what can I do about that information, given what my role is and who I work with, and thinking about it that way. And I'm trying to relate this back to, if this was my teenager and I was right in, we call this in the coaching world, being in the pool. I think we've talked about this. Like, I was right in the pool with my kid. Oh, that terrible person. They're not a friend. Stay away from them, blah, blah, blah. If it might be because what my child is struggling with, I might think, I'm supposed to help you. I'm supposed to be here to support you. Oh, I should have taught you how to manage these kinds of situations, because I haven't done my job. So it's like pulling from me a sense of shame that I'm not good enough, that I haven't been good at my job at helping my child navigate these things. So I go right into the pool with them.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think that's what we all do. And I think that's what coaching does, is helps you become aware of what your default reactions are, so you can change them if you want to. Because if you don't understand what's happening, it will just keep happening over and over and over again. And you'll just think it's the circumstance of the world. And that's just how it is. That's just how I am. That's just how it is. And you'll never look into all that underneath stuff, because anger is, it's a protector. That's your protection emotion. It's your power emotion. It protects you from, it's your armor, right? Because all of those, right? Shame and rejection and sadness, right? Those are all they're the tender parts that tend to be, they hurt more.
Our knee-jerk reaction to protect. Folks, I've just gotten coached up by Carrie. And if you didn't hear it, go back and listen, because she's coached me through awareness of my own mind, my own brain shenanigans, right? And I'm not saying that to diminish or belittle what your brain does, because we all have a human brain, And many times our human brain acts in conflict with itself. It's like,
Right.
On one part, it's like, that whole thing, the angel and the devil on your shoulder. It's true. You got that in your brain, like two conflicting ideas. And being able to hold the space for my brain to have that reaction to someone, a story of someone's behavior, even experiencing it myself, and be able to say, this means nothing about you, who you are as a person, who you are as a mother, if that's the situation, whatever the role is you're holding. In this particular story, it was in my role at work, that it doesn't have anything to do with you being less than or not enough.
Yeah. The relationships with people are what you think about them. It has very little to do with them. That's why relationships can change between people over the years. We'll just take marriage, for example, or a long-term relationship, because that's the easiest one. The little quirks that people have when they first meet, and oh, it's so cute, and I understand, right? Now it's the same exact quirk 20 or 30 years later, and
not so nice,
not so funny anymore, right? It's the same thing, but your thoughts about it have changed.
Those people that say, I hate the sound of their chewing.
Yeah, right.
Or their breathing. I hate the sound of their breathing.
Yeah.
It's so funny because, at one point that was endearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was sexy. Whatever it was, right?
Whatever it was. And now you're about to climb out of your skin because not so funny anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's that's the idea. It's you have thoughts about somebody, and that is what creates your relationship. Now they have thoughts about you too. So it has very little to do with what you do. That's why sometimes when somebody says something to you and you're like, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that. I didn't, right? It's because
I know
they're thinking a thought about you that has very little to do with what you have done or said or thought yourself.
How arrogant of me. Arrogance is definitely a value. Like a counter value, like a value that bothers me in other people. Mm-hmm. So if it bothers me in other people, it's a good sign that it bothers me in myself. How arrogant of me to think that because I am in this role, that I can control the way people behave or what they do. I can't. And the sooner that I accept that I can't, I can make suggestions. I can ask their administrators to help support them. I can get the supports in place, but ultimately adults get to do what adults want to do.
We all do it. That's what we do. It's our default for a reason. It's what we do. It's just being aware of it. And if you want to change how you're thinking and feeling and acting, then it's good to be aware of it. So
awareness is the first step. That's all. Always is the first step. So.
Always.
No, I really appreciated that. I loved our little impromptu coaching session today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I hope our listeners can see the process that we went through.
Yep, that's what coaching is all about. All right. We'll leave it there.
You're going to tell folks about you had your webinar this weekend.
Yes, I had my live. Yeah.
Have another one.
Yeah.
Next one.
I don't know exactly when it will be. I'm going to have them every month. So the next one is in June. So stay tuned for the date of that. But yes, I will be having them every month until the end of the year. You'll be able to find them on Facebook and YouTube. And as soon as I have a set date, I will let you guys know.
So we can find the replays on Facebook too. So
we can find the replays on Facebook and YouTube. Yes, that's right. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Yeah. I'd encourage people to listen. You get to hear Carrie's reframing of a situation when her children were when she was a young mom, and it's really fascinating. I don't think she's ever told the story quite the way that she told it in that live. So good stuff. Go listen.
Yes, go listen, everybody. Comment. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
All right, we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. This makes it easier for everyone to find us and helps us spread our message about self-care from the inside out. Have a wonderful week, and remember, making yourself the priority is the highest form of self-care.